Alright, so this can be the quick video over review sheet number 11. So hopefully you're watching it and hopefully it'll help out. The first one here, we've done one like this the last several weeks now. We had the one that was like the Mountain Dew with the Mountain Dews. We had the I don't even remember what it was last week, but regardless, we had one where we had to find unit. I think it was cost of apples, maybe. I think that's what it was. But regardless, just keep in mind the idea here is that is the initial ratio that's given to you. Okay, and if you know that it's $93.16 for 5 basketballs, notice how I have labels. Before we can do anything, we have to do this, and that is where we're going to figure out how much one ball costs. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to do a proportion. Remember, that's 2 equivalent ratios, where you are going to now determine how much it's going to cost for 1 basketball. And then it's pretty easy because you just look by definition of equivalent ratios or fractions. You know that you're dividing your number of basketballs by 5, so you have to be doing that exact same thing to your amount of money. So you got to do 93.16 divided by 5. That's going to give you the cost per ball, so the unit rate per ball, so how much it costs for 1 basketball. Well, if you know how much it costs for 1, and you know you want to buy 3, well then you're going to have to figure out the rest from there, but that's kind of the initial thinking on it. Okay? Refer back to last week's review sheet if you have any trouble with that. Number 2, okay, this is just adding and subtracting fractions. Just make sure you know. You must have work on this one, obviously. Okay? It's going to be whenever you add or subtract fractions, you always have to have a common denominator. Now, it can either be an LCD, which is, remember, it's the LCM of the denominator, so the LCM of 4 and 5, the 2 denominators, or you can use the QCD, which, if you'll recall, was when you just go ahead and multiply the 2 denominators together to get a common. That's the quick common denominator. But both of those all 4 of those need one of these 2 to be shown, and then from there you should be good on adding and subtracting. Okay, here we go. Use the algorithm to solve here. This is going to have to be in 2 steps, obviously, on both of them. Okay, go back to your learning target number 1 notes, or 4, depending on which group you're in for this chapter, but it's the dividing fractions chapter, and that's the current chapter 3. And I showed you exactly the way I want these done, if you're not sure. Okay? Quotient, you got to know that that's the answer to a division problem. A product is the answer to a multiplication problem. And you have to do 68 and 52 hundredths divided by 12 hundredths. Okay? And then over here you'll have to do 68 and 52 hundredths times 0.12. Okay? Now, one thing to keep in mind from learning target number 4 of chapter 3, we have to know something about that divisor before we start. Okay? That thing cannot be a decimal. Alright, so you'll have to figure it out from there, but obviously I would need to see work on I guess this one I should put a W to. This one here, this is a multiplication problem. Remember, I gave you a trick way to kind of go about your multiplication of decimals, and it involves just getting rid of the decimal until the end. Okay? So, again, see your chapter 3 notes if you have any issues with that question or this question. Okay? Here we go. Find the GCF and the LCM. GCF and the LCM. I would need to see work. I would hope you guys are all clear on that work by now in this point in the year, but I would need to see trees. And then obviously from there you should know how to find that and that. If not, look back to your chapter 1 notes. Okay? This question right here is right on your formative, and it's also on your summative. But basically, this is what I've had you guys memorize, where you say division is just multiplication by the divisor's reciprocal. Now, I know it also says in there, use the word dividend. So basically, you could say it 2 ways. There's a lot of different ways you could say it. You just got to use those 3 words. But you could say the dividend is going to stay the same, and then I'm just going to multiply by the divisor's reciprocal. So I just basically gave you the answer right there. But it's in your notes. I made you write it real big in there. Okay? No work required there except for a sentence. Here, definitely need work here. 1 step and rewrite. Don't forget to write PEMDAS. If you don't write PEMDAS, it is wrong. Okay? Down here, definitely need work for this one too. Use the back pages or the third or fourth pages because there's really not enough space in here to do this one, so don't try to jam it in. There's your algebraic expression. First thing you should do is write PEMDAS, right? And then from there, you need to turn that algebraic into a numeric, okay? No operations happening. If you're wondering what is happening, what MN is, that means M times N minus 0.2, okay? So that's what that means. And then your first step would be to go ahead and plug it in. So 0.2 times 3.4 minus 0.2, and then write PEMDAS and follow PEMDAS from there. Okay, so work on both of those. This one here, if you're not sure what the word outlier is, you may Google it or however you want to try to do it. It was on past review sheets as well, so you should know what that is, and then you should have a pretty good indication of what that does to this mean. Remember, mean is just another word for average. Okay, when you average them is when you add them up and then divide by however many there are. Okay, number 9. Okay, this was from chapter 1 also. Okay, notice it says find the GCF. Remember, the GCF is going to go right here. And then you're just going to ask yourself, what would I multiply the GCF by that would get me back to 54? And so on. What would I multiply the GCF by to get me back to 27? So those are pretty much review, and you guys are pretty good at those, I think. Here, you have to figure out this rectangular basketball court. All you know is that this rectangular basketball court has an area of 100 feet squared. So what you have to do is you have to figure out a possible length and width, or a base and a height. Okay? So you have to say, I could have a, well, I'm not even going to give you any further than that. There's a ton of different answers there that are possible. Okay, next page. Okay. These, you just have to determine if 3 makes these true or not. Okay? I would need work on every one of these, proving they're true or they're yes or they're no. Okay? So like here, 8 to the third power equals 512. You'd have to do 8 times 8 times 8, and if it does equal 512, that's where you'd get yes. But I need to see that work. Here, this means 4/5 times 4/5 times 4/5. So you need to multiply that out and see if it gives you that. Okay? So all these, I need to see the work. I need you to prove when you plug 3 in there for n that it's either yes or no. Okay? Input-output table, I think you guys can figure it out. It's all about this is what's going in, there's something happening to it, and then that's what you're getting after you apply one of these 4 rules. Okay? No work required there. Number 13, refer back to chapter 2 if you have any questions with this. It was one of the first 1, 2, or 3 learning targets of chapter 2. So it's just these real life words. Okay? Meaning positive or negative. Go to the next page. Okay? I would need work on both of these. Okay? Obviously, I'd need it to be set up. Remember, when you're adding, you line up the decimals. Okay? Adding and subtracting. So both those need work. Here, you have to figure out, you know what? I'll just let you guys think about this one. No work required here. You just have to figure out what work or which one of these would go in these 2 spots. Okay? Now here, this question is going to be very similar to that basketball question on the first page. Okay? So when you remember, you know that right there, that's that first thing that's given to you. Okay? So it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and start with your ratio, just like we did on the basketball question. And if we can just figure out how many windows he can wash in 1 hour, which is the unit rate, then we can just multiply by 12. Okay, so this question is just like the basketball question on the front. Try to figure out how many windows that Levi can wash in 1 hour. And then it's pretty easy from there. I think you guys will figure that out from there, I think. And finally, the last page here is, I need you to, I'm going to put work, but really what the work is really proving. You have to prove which one of these is true. Now, this is the number of siblings that these students have. So if this data was listed out, it'd be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, because there were 5 students that had 0 siblings, and then 1, 1, however many there are there, and then that many 2s and that many 3s. Okay? So you're going to need to go through and find the mean, find the median, find the mode, find the range, and then find the total number surveyed. And that work is what I mean by prove. That'll tell you which one of these is true. But I want to see them all proved, even the false ones. Like if you figure out that the median is not 2, I need to see that. I need to see these listed out, and then finding the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. Okay? And then finally, dot plot. You can just see last week's review sheet if you have any questions here. We did one exactly like it. So that's all. So hopefully this helped. See you guys.